Yes, I'm on speaker.
Great.
So.
Okay. Then we should be cool. All right. Oh, am I recording? Yes, and I'm recording too. Okay, good, good, good.
All right.
You're you're
Got
you're,
all the
you're seeing
tech
how
out of
the
the way.
sausage is made, Walter,
Yeah. That's right.
Good. Good.
and it's not pretty. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Faitheism Project podcast. My name is Alan Katz, and I have always been grateful to Hebrew School for making me the atheist I am today.
And my name is Randy Lovejoy, and I am a storyteller of sorts. I'm still working on the letting go of the pastor thing, like we talked about. Storyteller's in the right direction, but I'm still not happy with it. So I'm going to try it. So we'll see how it goes.
This is worth a whole conversation unto itself.
That's right. Today
we're doing something out of the ordinary, outside the box for us. The name of today's episode is Being, Nothingness, and Walter. And by Walter, we mean a fascinating guy. I will let Randy introduce him because they're related.
Yeah. Let me tell you a story about Walter, since I'm the storyteller. So he is actually my father-in-law. But he is also the author of a book called Is God Unnecessary? Why Stephen Hawking is Wrong According to the Laws of Physics, which that's a rather bold title, I'd say, for your yes. So we're going to talk to him about that. But Walter, as far as being and non-being, he definitely is a being. He exists. And when he's in the room, you just kind of know he's there,
What did Walter, was Walter retired now?
Walter is now retired.
But
yes.
Prior to that, he was?
He grew up actually in Latin America. His dad was the charge d'affaires in Mexico. That's second to the ambassador, and is actually buried in Mexico City because he died at a young age, but wanted to be with the Mexican people because he loved them. And Walter first spoke, he was fluent in Spanish in his early school books and stuff. But anyway, when he came to the US at 16, he went to MIT, which has always been intimidating to me, and was studying engineering there. And that's where some significant changes happened in his life that I think we ought to ask him about, because it's a real confluence of spirituality and science that I think is really interesting. But he ended up going to get a master's in theology, then a PhD in New Testament at Princeton, and then was a pastor for close to 30 years. No, actually more than 30 years, but is now retired. And he's written one book in retirement, the one I mentioned, and he's working on a second one. So.
Now, did he ever work in the sciences?
He did, and we should ask him about that. Yeah, he did. Have I think it was with an early Motorola stuff. He was working with them on some projects.
So he did work as a practical engineer.
Yeah.
And as a minister.
Exactly. Yes, that's right. That's
okay.
Right.
So he had so writing a book about physics, taking a few shots at Stephen Hawking. He had some background in the sciences. He wasn't
Definitely. No, it's and I was looking even on Amazon right now, there's about 15 reviews. And what was fascinating to me was there was nobody taking him down for his take on this. So it's well-informed, and that's a huge side deal of his. It has been all his life is science, and particularly the universe. And just one last thing I'll say about him is he's one of these people that as he has aged, he's mellowed like a fine wine. I've known him for over 30 years now, and the guy just gets, better and better every year. It's just amazing to watch. You know how there are those people that just get crustier as they get older? He's like on this other path, and it's like, man, that's the path I want to go on.
So I personally will be looking at my diametric opposite.
There you go.
A
There you
man
go.
aging gracefully.
Well, yeah. What is the graceful path versus the crusty path? Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
in that case, why are we keeping him from our audience?
Let's bring him in. I'm excited for everybody to meet him. He's been just huge in my life, and I think you'll really enjoy this conversation. So let's invite him in now. Walter.
Randy.
We have introduced you to everyone, so we are on. We are ready to go. And we've just said good things about you so far.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, very much so. So, why don't you, Alan, ask him a couple of clarifying things. I liked your question about had he worked in the sciences at all, that kind of thing. Why don't you ask a few of those questions?
Let's just go little background first.
Yeah.
Now, you were always interested in science, or the science says. Which of the sciences appealed to you? What was it about science that drew your attention?
Electrical engineering is what I ended up in, and received a bachelor's and a master's in that field. And what attracted me to it was calculus. I liked calculus, and electrical engineering had a lot of calculus.
What is it about? Now, calculus is in essence a language.
Yes.
I mean, well, all right, theoretically, all right, math is your thing, and math is in essence a language. Would you not say?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. It is a way to describe the physical world in a way other than words. It describes it using numbers and values and math. Says the guy with no math skill whatsoever, but the language of math makes sense to you.
Good, very much so.
What's like one or two factoids related to math or calculus that intrigue you?
Well, one scientist wrote a book called, he's agnostic himself. He wrote a book called Is God a Mathematician? That's the title. And he is amazed by the fact that mathematics describes much of the universe. How can it be that the universe is in mathematical terms, like the orbit of planets, the orbit of stars, are described perfectly by an ellipse or
but in essence, isn't that why Isaac Newton invented calculus, was to describe in mathematical terms that multiple objects moving at the same time?
Well, that was part of it. Maybe he discovered calculus, though. Maybe he didn't invent it. It already existed because the orbits of planets and stars already agreed with calculus.
Calculus simply is a way to describe it that we can all agree with.
All right.
I mean, I'm asking, what is calculus?
Well, and I mean, I think that's the thing that's always intrigued me about math is like, what is it?
Yes.
But even with the language, like think about language. I mean, if I say the wall behind me is blue, that may be true in a way, but it's not blue for other animals, creatures. And it seems like from what I've read that it's actually the opposite of being blue in a way, because that's what makes the blue show up. So there's all this intrigue underneath the language. But what's with science, though, it seems to be so specific that you can trust your life to it in many instances, that whereas, blue, even in another way to think of it, is azul in Spanish, right? Same concept, different word. But with math, an ellipse is an ellipse, regardless of the culture, regardless of where you are.
Zero is zero.
Yeah. So, I mean, Walter, why is math so universally effective when language, is super helpful, but it has a lot of shortcomings when you compare it in a certain way to math? So
that is a great mystery. And that is exactly why this physicist, Mario Livio, it's a book you can get, Is God a Mathematician? That's why he came up with this title, that it was so amazing that mathematics describes much of the universe. How can that be? Maybe the originator of the universe was a mathematician, he says.
Yes, yes.
Well, that is if you're supposing the calculus, all right, in the abstract sense, yes, the measurements exist, the explanation exists, the information exists. Let me come at it this way. We humans tell ourselves that we know everything that's going on because we see it, we can hear it. But the truth of the matter is we only see a little bit. We only see the visible light. There are other light spectrums that we do not see, filled with information that flies by us constantly. There are sounds we can't hear, smells we can't smell, plenty of things that we cannot sense. It is a constant flow of information to which we are oblivious.
True.
All right. So, in a sense, while everything is revolving around us, the truth of what is out there is out there. Our problem is, do we know it? Are we capable of knowing it? Are we capable of seeing it, hearing it, grasping it? Do we have the equipment on board to, in the case of calculus, prior to Isaac Newton, no one figured out how to express the calculus. Can we put it that way? That really, what is that Newton's accomplishment where calculus is concerned is to have, did it exist before? Because that your thinking is that calculus, that the mathematics existed and we simply discovered it.
Yes,
okay.
I would say that's the case.
As opposed to, and I think the way that I'm approaching it is, we simply, the calculus, like mathematics, being a language, is something that we invented so as to describe these things in the same way that we figured out how to create words to describe a rock, this thing. And we all, in this tribe, we all agreed that rock, that rock. And then one rock, two rock, three rock, four rock, how we progress from one piece of information to the next. But yes, in essence, if you have four rocks lined up, there are always four rocks. Our ability to count four rocks is the innovation, and our ability to say one rock plus one rock. Now we've invented mathematics, a way to express via numbers, not words, this object and this object separately and together. What do we have?
It sounds like what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, is that you're not sure that what we're actually expressing in math is at bottom the truth that's really out there, but it's something we've grasped to this point, but there's a lot more out there and we can't really be sure that it is that in itself. Is that right? Or
when I'm really intrigued by, Walter, is the idea that in essence the calculus always existed, that math always existed, and it was in essence the knowledge in the universe existed, and we are slowly acquiring it as we stumble upon it. That of course it always existed. That to think that we invented calculus is rather conceited of us. It was always there. We simply finally were able to open our eyes enough to see it. Is that kind of how you're thinking of it?
Well, that's a fascinating question. I'm intrigued more by a different question, and that is one that I take from a book by Sean Carroll, who is a physicist at Caltech. He's a present professor of physics, Caltech, called The Big Picture. And amazingly, he has a chapter called Are Photons Conscious? Now, you wouldn't expect that from a Caltech physics professor. I would not expect that. But the reason he came up with that is because...
It's a cool question. It's a great question. Great question.
The answer is no, they are not. But it is a cool question. Earlier in the book, he says that all of the fundamental particles are measurable so far and conform to the laws of physics. Therefore, he has a chapter saying there's probably no such thing as free will, because the particles all conform to the laws of physics, not to some other law of free will.
But do they? Do all the now? All right. Isn't that part of the problem with quantum mechanics, that we're not sure if gravity works down on the quantum level, which would mean that the laws of physics are true one place and problematic someplace else.
But they do work at the quantum level, because otherwise you could not even conceive of something like a quantum computer. If a quantum computer would behave any which way, there's no such thing as a quantum computer, but they do follow certain prescribed laws. But let me pursue what Sean Carroll is saying.
Please.
Since he says every particle so far that we have measured follows physical laws, there's no place for free will. And Stephen Hawking agrees with that. Mm-hmm. He says we don't have free will. We are simply advanced computers, very sophisticated computers. There's no free will in there. Now, my point would be that there is free will, and I can prove it by a simple Gedanken experiment, which is what Einstein often did. Mm-hmm. That was his favorite laboratory, was a thought experiment.
And please say the name of the experiment again. It was a
Gedanken. It's a German word for thought.
Yeah. A Gedanken experiment.
Yeah.
Great.
And
good.
So my Gedanken experiment, which proves free will, is that if you were to sit me down with someone, and that someone would say, I'm going to give you 100 directions of 3 possibilities. Put your arm down, hold it straight up, move it up. And at the end of the 100, I want to see that you have obeyed me every time. Now, if I agree to that, if I say, all right, I agree to this experiment, then at the end of the 100, clearly, I will have done exactly what the experimenter asked me to do, thereby proving free will. I have the ability to make the choice that I want to make. Now, if there is such a thing as free will, how did it come from electrons or photons or quarks or muons? Well, whimsically, Sean Carroll says, do photons have consciousness? And that's where he leaves it. He doesn't really answer that. He does not particularly believe in free will. He says photons probably do not have consciousness.
To be fair, we don't really know what consciousness is.
Well, I just feel they've defined it pretty well. It's the ability to make a decision.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, physically, we have no idea. We have no idea how we're having this conversation, the 3 of us. Literally, where are these thoughts coming from? Oh, yeah, I know, somewhere deep in our brains, but what is memory exactly? Yeah, we understand sort of, but we really don't know where our ideas.
Well, let me just push my argument to one logical conclusion, and that is the free will is not resident within an electron. I'm concluding it's not resident within a photon, not within a quark. Therefore, the only thing left from a scientific point of view is, well, there are two possibilities. It's something we've not yet discovered, or
always a possibility.
It's supernatural. And I would say it's supernatural because science has not yet discovered it. And according to the logical rules of science, it's an impossibility because it's not in a quark, it's not in an electron. And like Bryson says in his book, A Short History of Everything, we can pick ourselves apart.
Yes.
Part by part, yes. Put it on a table, and all we've got is a cloud of dust. All we have is particles. Mm-hmm. Where did life come from?
We're asking the same question.
Will come from.
Yeah. When,
did that. But of course, a reductionist does not want to admit that there may be a God. But I say science proves that there is a God, because so far science has not been able to answer the questions of reductionism.
But all right, but science is always willing to say three words in response to a question. I don't know.
Yes.
And that is an acceptable answer. I don't know. Now, the thing with faith is that I don't know is not acceptable within that, because isn't that the point of the faith, is to know the things that the scientist requires so that he does know. These you can get by with in matters of faith, because I don't know is not an impediment. So in a sense, it's the God of the gaps. The I don't know has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller in some respects. And yet I would also, I think of it this way. We have no idea, really. We can only guess what's on the other side of a singularity at the very bottom of a black hole. We have no idea what's on the other side. It's entirely possible that you'd cross over to the other side and you could be staring into the face of God. A scientist cannot say, no, that's an impossibility, because we absolutely do. We can't answer that. I don't know. It is the thing about an atheist, just speaking for myself. I can't really talk for any other atheist, but all I'm ever asking for is something that makes me, I don't have to answer. I don't know. And it's the willingness to accept I don't know as an answer, I think is kind of what defines the difference between us. Would you?
I don't know is an acceptable answer. However, it's inconsistent with science as we know it.
How so?
As we know it, it's what Feynman would call cargo cult theory. He has this strange term, cargo cult theory.
He was a remarkable person.
If something is not scientific, if it does not follow the known laws of science, he says it's not science. If you can't prove it in a laboratory, it's not science. It's cargo cult theory. So someone can say, I don't know whether there's a God or not, but I think he needs to admit that that answer is not a scientific answer.
I can't prove it would be more scientific. There's no measurable, repeatable evidence that I can present, that I have seen, that has been peer-reviewed successfully.
Very good. Peer-reviewed successfully. Very good.
There you go. There you go.
But
my work here is done.
But like, to me, the peer review, the thing, and I don't know, I'd be interested in what both of you think of this, but to me, the peer review for Christianity is the fact that it's lasted as long as it has, that it's had the impact that it's had, that it continues to have an impact in people's lives well beyond when many Enlightenment thinkers thought we just shed that part of who we are and move on.
Can I play devil's advocate? Can I play devil's advocate?
Yeah, well, but I mean, to me, that's peer review.
I would say the peer history is not the peer review. Buddhism is the peer review. Taoism is the peer review. Hinduism is the peer review. Judaism is the peer review, and Islam is the peer review, because those are the competitors. History is simply marking time. How do
well, no.
Feel about Christianity? How does
the peer review to me would be all of the different gods, beliefs, thoughts, and cultures that no longer exist, versus a Christianity that has made it through.
Why no longer exist? Because that's not who it's competing against. Its peers are the ones that it's competing against in the marketplace, which is,
well, it was competing with them in the past, and they don't exist anymore as a significant approach to faith or religion.
You don't get to play in the marketplace of the past. You get to play in the marketplace of today. You're not selling the idea to the past. You're selling the idea to the present and the future.
Well, okay, so what you're saying then is past approaches to cosmology have nothing to do with today's science because it's only about today? I mean, to me, part of why Western science works is because past views of cosmology have shown themselves not to be as effective. And modern science today is seen as the most effective approach to those questions. So I mean, you can't remove it from history and say that past history has nothing to do with it.
That is not what I said.
Well, you did. You were saying that the fact that there were other faiths before that no longer exist has nothing to do with Christianity.
But the competition, as with science, you have to keep updating. You can't go, well, the science was, the science was back when the science that was good enough for Aristotle is good enough for us. But that's not how it plays, because every time there's something new, we got to update the science. Now, Christianity is beginning to realize it's got to play the same game, which is kind of the...
You mean Western Christianity, because where the most Anglicans are today is in Nigeria. And in Nigeria, there were also, and still are, other, yes, global religions, but also folk religions that are competing with Christianity. But Christianity is growing rapidly in Nigeria. So again, that says something. That does have to say something.
In the marketplace, it's doing well. They're in the current, because...
Well, and same with Western science. Western science is doing well in the marketplace right now, but who knows what it'll be in the future. Is that...
Well, let me take this.
Western science...
Wait a minute.
Not have to appeal to anyone's opinion. It's not an opinion question.
And that's where I disagree. I still think science is an opinion question, and it relates to other things that we think. It's not just some massive experimental data that's completely removed from other thought forms and the way we perceive reality. It's deeply integrated into the way Western people see the world. Deeply.
That science is.
Yes. Well, Western science, modern Western science, yes.
But science is not a monolith. It's not just. It's not a.
Neither is Christianity.
Thing.
Neither is Christianity.
It is a way. Science is the scientific method. It is a way of thinking that says,
so is Christianity.
Back it up, or I'm sorry, you're going to have to come back when you can back it up.
And Christianity has that as well, although you would probably call that dogma, but that's beliefs of Christianity that are tested out, and that people decide that's not really accurate toward the faith. It's an incorrect application of the faith. And there is a process internal to Christianity like that. But we better get back to Walter, because we got him here on this thing. We can have our little
we get so distracted, Walter.
Sorry, Walter. Back to you. Bring it back around wherever you want to take it.
Go back to the point that I will accept I don't know as a valid answer.
Oh, yeah, that's where thank you, Walter.
However, it is not a scientific answer.
I don't know is not a
I
scientific.
need for the person to admit that to explain how electrons, protons, and photons can have free will is so far all the scientific information and principles and laws that we have cannot, not just do not, cannot explain that. Will they at some future time? Perhaps, but right now it's not science to say we don't have free will because we can't explain. That's cargo cult theory, Feynman would say. To say we don't have free will and there is no God is cargo cult theory.
What would
I say that scientifically, the only way to explain how we can have free will and how a photon can make a decision is to accept God. Is God did something here that's supernatural. Otherwise, what we're saying is not scientific. That is scientific because God supersedes scientific laws, the laws of physics.
And is that, I'm interested in, related to your book, you know, the 9 points that you take Stephen Hawking to task for. A number of them are about theories or aspects of what he says, getting him to the quote, God is not necessary. But a number of aspects of that actually aren't grounded well in scientific theory, that he says them, but it seems like what you're saying is, in a lot of the cases, is that like the origins of virtual particles or the origin of the Heisenberg principle, or how could these things exist with high temperatures of the Big Bang? I mean, in all of that, you're taking what he said and you're looking previous to it and saying, but that's not supported by science at this point. So how can you assert that? Am I reading you the right way?
That's very good. And one thing he does, I agree with what you just said. One thing Hawking does is he assumes that we have a quantum theory of gravity, which all scientists today would agree we don't have that.
Right.
We're not there yet. We don't understand how that works.
That's why there's a problem with the quantum mechanics. There's gravity is problematic at that level, at that small level.
Yes.
Right. And yet Hawking continues to develop his view, if I'm reading Walter's book correctly, on the basis of that idea that is not yet confirmed by scientific knowledge. That what he's asserting is based on some assumptions that may be common, but that they're not understood well enough to be firmly grounded in a scientific way.
Right. Exactly.
Let me put it this way. One of the things that I think I understand you have a problem with is the cosmological constant. The idea that we have to account for the universe's, the fact that the universe is or is not static is what Einstein is trying to account for with the cosmological constant, right? He's trying to keep it in a static place where everything continues to make sense, where the laws continue to be. It supposes an eternal universe. Is that a problem for you, an eternal universe? Or do you need the universe to have a beginning, a middle, and an end?
No, I don't need either one of those. I think the cosmological constant is something that a lot of scientists are now agreeing with. And the universe is not static, it is expanding. Two famous tests that were carried out, scientific experimental tests, showed that the universe is expanding, it's accelerating in its expansion. And so that's just a laboratory experiment. I don't have a problem with that.
in theory, all right, as you look at the universe, then the Big Bang is or it isn't?
Definitely.
All right, so the Big Bang occurs.
I believe it.
Okay. What is there before the Big Bang?
That we do not know, and I do not think that we can know, because at the temperature of the Big Bang, everything is molten lava. Everything is melted. The temperature is so high.
Did time?
There are no electrons or protons.
Did time exist before the Big Bang?
We don't know. Scientifically, we don't know what existed before the Big Bang.
Did it, everything that was compounded into this singularity, this is something, so this something that was the singularity, did this always exist, or did this somehow emerge out of nothing? Did something come from nothing?
No.
Something has always existed.
No. God has always existed.
How is that possible?
That I don't know. That's a great question. And the answer to that is, I do not know. And I have asked that question so many times.
That's not a scientific, Walter, that's not a scientific answer.
No, it's not.
No. I was just hooking back.
Well, but it is a scientific answer, but I didn't get there by a scientific process.
Yes. Well,
let me ask, I want to ask this of you, because I think this is one of the things I see a lot of people struggle with, which is, okay, so I'm going to give you an A, B, or a C, Walter, in how you connect to these things. Okay. So option A is there's a world of science, and that world of science tells us really the most important stuff, or the core stuff that we need to know about existence. Option B is there's religion, and it's the religious approach that tells us what we need about core existence. But here's the thing. Option C is that to see option A, i.e. Western science, and option B, religion, as distinct entities that compete with one another is incorrect, because they actually overlap with one another in our thinking and working and doing. So where would do you see religion and science as overlapping or as distinct entities in the way that we think? Because I think that's what I see out there with a lot of people, is think, well, I need to be scientific about this, I can't be religious. Or I need to be religious about this, I'm not going to read science because it's dangerous to my faith. But my guess is, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but as I read your book and the last part of it as well, the two are not these totally distinct entities in your own mind, but there's a lot of overlap. Is that true or false, or how would you describe?
Well, that's a great question. Very good question. I would say there is an overlap in that God, who existed before science, created science. So there is an overlap. God created the laws of physics. Why is speed, why is the speed of light the maximum speed that can be attained? That's a question that science has no idea about. And I would say the answer is because God decided that. God decided that the speed, he had his reasons that mesh with science, but we don't know.
But let's extrapolate a little bit. All right. Let's try to peer into the mind of God for a second, because certainly, if this is true, if God has created all of these the wonders of science, does God intend for us to learn these things? Because certainly we've learned bits and pieces. We've learned some really significant things about how God's universe.
I would say absolutely yes to that. God did intend for us to use our minds to discover the laws of science and make them work for our benefit.
Does God want us to learn so much that we can stare into his face? How much of this apple does God want us to enjoy? Is this not the apple itself?
That's a wonderful question. And all I can do is I keep trying to find the apple, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. As it's funny hearing you answer these questions. It's funny, the I don't know, that to me is the acceptable answer of a scientist, is very much your I don't know. It's remarkable how we're really talking about the same thing using slightly different vocabulary. When I talk about the mystery on the other side of a black, on the other end of a black hole, there's some string theory that suggests that would open into another dimension. That's how you get from one dimension, from this dimension into another brain. In string theory, there's the idea
would say that's cargo cult theory. Feynman would say that's cargo cult theory because you can't prove it. You can't
prove it yet. But hey, you can't
analyze it.
You cannot walk from here to there unless you begin to take those steps. The process of us learning what God wants us to know, if that's how this works, is we have to begin to walk toward it. And
I agree with you. Let's try. I agree with that. Let's try. Let's walk toward it and try.
So far, an awful lot of the math behind string theory, it works. It allows for the possibility that there would be agreement between physics on the quantum level and the large level would agree. Now, of course, it opens up 1,000 other cans of worms, like the possibility of multiverses. But again, as we said, there's so much that we don't know. Hey, and it's not, by the same token, it's entirely possible that sitting behind string theory, behind all those multiverses, is the very God that you guys think of. And the puzzle that we are staring at is so much more complex than we are yet capable of understanding. That if we can hang on for another millennia or so, we might become enlightened enough, whether through science or understanding the divine better, where these things are less mysterious than they are to us today. A thought.
But isn't that, yeah, go, Walter.
I was just going to say, you, Alan, are a very articulate exponent of thoughts. You express them very strongly and well. So
I'm going to quit my day job now.
Commend you for that.
Thank you.
But I think that's, to me, part of what you're talking about, because by the same token, 10 years from now, string theory could be, you could find books on that for 12 cents on Amazon because there's some other theory that's wiped that out or ruled it out or something. That's possible. But I think that's where, there is this view of Christianity for sure, that it's that the knowledge that we have is revealed. It's revelation. It's not just something that somebody made up. And I know that at least in our previous conversations, Alan, your take is really, it is a really great invention in some ways, and also a dangerous invention in some ways.
And that does not take that takes nothing away from it. That does not mean it has no value.
But the point of it to me is that's not how Christianity has understood itself. It has not understood it. So by doing that, you're bringing in a notion, and even for some people, making a judgment about Christianity on the basis of a theory that's not a part of Christianity, because it really is very much about revealed knowledge that we can't access on our own, but that needs to be revealed to us.
Understand from from a skeptic's point of view, I won't say from science's point of view, let's say from a skeptic's point of view, when I go to ask, all right, what's your final proof? Rather than saying, well, here it is, here on a piece of paper, it's trust me. You're going to have to trust me on this. And trust me that the version of God that I am talking about with the authority, not my microphone, with absolute authority that I speak for the deity. Yahweh speaks through me. I understand Yahweh better than anybody else. I speak for Yahweh. And I say that Yahweh does this. Trust me. That, from a skeptic's point of view, is hard.
Right.
Because
but
I know a guy over there who says Yahweh
right.
says something completely different.
But that's where, because there's a lot of things that you dismiss as not being a valid support for that view. And that's part of the difference that we have is, as we've talked about, I'm cynical and skeptical about politics at a very high level.
I've heard you say that. I don't believe this of you.
But to me, history does have some impact in terms of Christianity, that I can't just dismiss history and say, no, none of that matters, or none of that ever existed, or any of that kind of thing, because I think that's what a lot of skeptics do. Well, we can't know for sure that Jesus ever existed. Okay, fine. But can we at least acknowledge that the fact that this guy that, basically had, as far as we can tell from the Gospels, about 3 years of ministry before getting killed pretty brutally, is continuing to have a massive impact on the world, and that is an oddity. At the very least, it's an oddity that this guy is somebody that continues to be at the center of so much thought. But what I hear in our conversations is that because I can't somehow in a scientific way prove that, then that's not really valid, and we should continue to be skeptical about that. And I'm just interested, Walter. I mean, do you kind of agree with that idea that to believe in Christianity requires you to do a whole lot of committing that is unscientific, a whole lot of basing your life on an unscientific approach to the world, and that if you were going to be more consistent in terms of science, you should stay an agnostic?
That's
or how do you deal with that?
True. And I think of a professor of physics at Stanford who's considered the father of string theory, which Alan mentioned. His name is Susskind. Susskind believes that there is no reality outside of that which we can see, touch, and feel, and that therefore Christianity is absolutely untrue and is a myth because it is unscientific. You cannot touch it or prove it or see it. And so science has no room for Christian beliefs. That's what Susskind teaches, and many top physicists believe that. Not all top physicists believe that. Some of them do believe there is a God who created science and who created physics. But to say it's unscientific to believe in God may be true. However, it's just as unscientific to not believe in God. To not believe in God is not scientific, because you would need to prove, according to the laws of science, that there is no God, and that nobody has done yet.
The nature of atheism isn't so much tied to the science as it is to it's just the skepticism of it. And then I looked at my Buddhist friend, and he says he's got a whole other view of how we got here and how we're having this conversation that does not line up in the least with what my very dear Christian friends say.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
And I go, this makes no sense to me.
I do appreciate you saying that, because those things, like those bumper stickers that make it seem like if all the religions would just get
Good luck
along.
with
They
that.
actually all agree. And it's like, no, the people that practice those religions don't think everybody
No, they
agrees.
don't. That's why I
They're
agree. Those are
quite
hilarious.
different, so yeah,
It's like
I mean, I think I hear what you're saying, but it's like, to me, and Walter, correct your son-in-law on this. Feel free, but to me, I feel like that Susskind guy and that approach to science is kind of like they're looking at the world like this. They're saying, this is the only thing that matters. None of this matters. History doesn't matter. The way people decide doesn't matter. What people think doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what's right here. That's the only thing I'm going to believe. Because to me, it's like, you go around the world, tons of people believe in spirituality, deities, higher beings. It's way more common than the ones that don't. And I do think we've disproved, hopefully by now, the Enlightenment idea that, wow, we finally figured it out and we're going to peel off all this ridiculous religious belief, because that never worked for them, that their theory is wrong. But so to me, it just feels like you're putting yourself in this tiny little box of reality and saying, this is the only thing that matters, and anybody that believes anything else is totally wrong and unscientific. Now, correct me, am I just jaded by some past experience I don't know about yet?
I would agree with 3/4 of what you're saying.
Okay, what's the fourth that you don't? I mean, that's what I'm intrigued by.
I think that Susskind is saying, I don't believe in religion because it's unscientific. But then he no longer applies the same scientific viewpoint to all the other ways of looking at everything. He drops that when he approaches his own beliefs. Because his own belief is that there is not a God. And in fact, one place that says in his book, he says, we scientists will stand to the death on the fact that there is nothing supernatural. Nothing supernatural. Well, that's an unscientific statement. He can't make that statement.
I would agree with you. I would agree. You can't make that statement unequivocally, because there's all kinds of stuff that we possibly don't see and cannot measure.
But that he's not ready to accept in this book anyway. He doesn't accept what you just said. I accept what you just said.
then we need to walk to his front door. You and I knock on it and go, "Hey, dude, we all need to talk to set this guy straight."
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I guess, we've just got a few more minutes here, but, I would love to hear, Walter, what's one or two of the things that are most intriguing to you right now? You did mention the free will deal with the arm experiment. What are a couple other things that are just really intriguing to you in terms of science and maybe overlap with faith? But just what are the things?
Can I ask that a slightly different way?
Sure, go for it.
Now, you've made a journey, through, it's called science and technology, but you've also made a spiritual journey. What was at the beginning of your spiritual journey? What were you seeking? Do you remember? What was it that, even as you had a mind for science and calculus, things like that, it didn't answer everything. There was still questions unanswered.
Well, again, that's a profound question, and I think it's a great one. And to my knowledge, I was not looking for anything. I remember being a member of a fraternity house. At this time, I was an agnostic. I was 18 or 19.
An important point. So you came from a place of when you describe your agnosticism, what do you mean?
I mean, maybe there's a God, maybe there isn't. That's what I considered agnosticism. I'd taken my date home at 1 o'clock. I was walking across the Charles River back to MIT, and it was a beautiful, clear night. And I remember looking up at the stars and thinking, wow, isn't this something? Where did all this come from? And the thought came to me very briefly, maybe there's a God, Walter. maybe there is a God.
Sure.
And my answer to that was, out of my profound agnosticism, I remember walking across the bridge and I thought, well, he's never tried to talk to me. I don't believe in him. He hasn't tried to reach me. Why should I try to reach him? He hasn't tried to reach me. And I dismissed that thought. And it wasn't until a couple of years later that I thought again about, to my memory, and I thought about God and opened my life to the influence of Christ and his presence. But to my knowledge, I was not seeking anything. He came and revealed himself to me. As Randy was saying, it's God's revelation. He showed me that Jesus is Christ and he can be my Lord and Savior. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. But I accepted it. I don't know why.
And not only did you accept it, you chose to preach it too.
Yeah, yeah.
So it filled you.
It did.
I will point out, and it's probably a great point to bring this around. When Randy and I began this podcast, it was the first question, the question that we're answering is, what is spirituality? And we both began our conversation 15 plus years ago with a recognition that it's in response to awe. Exactly as you described, Walter. As I know, as I stare up at the cosmos, yes, I feel that same amazing sense of wonderment, and to be part of it too. It's not just that it's there, it's that it's there, and it's the relationship that we have to it. And it's how we try to make sense of that is our spiritual journey.
Good. Yes.
Which is, like I said, is you literally came right around to the place that was the starting point for our whole conversation. It begins with awe. That, yes, God, I so completely hear you.
Good.
And good. On that bombshell, we will take this experiment in our podcast. And Walter, I cannot thank you enough. First of all,
thanks, Walter. Much
appreciated. It's been 1,000 years, and you look fantastic, man. How are you doing this? I'm probably not up to it. Don't tell me.
I was going to say the secret is golf, but that may be too simplistic.
Oh, no, not golf. Oh, I'm doomed.
See, now golf is not, I think golf does not follow the laws of science or of free will. I think that is something that's altogether transcendent from anything, because you cannot control golf. Am I right, Walter?
Yes. Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed this. Very stimulating.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being with us. Much appreciated. So,
and thank you all for joining us for this episode of the podcast, and we'll see you all next time.
Alan, you're a great thinker. You got a great mind.
You are way too kind, and my cheat sheet will also thanks you. We'll see you next time, everybody.